Let's now continue with round number 2, where I was playing quite a strong youngster with a rating of around 2000. I already played against him last year where he made a draw, and so I took this quite seriously. Of course, I always take my game seriously, but I was aware that he can play very well. So I started with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, queen's Indian defense, pawn to g3, bishop b7, bishop g2. This is all normal stuff. Knight c3 castles. And here I could also castle, which is normal stuff, but I remembered an idea, not an exact line, but an idea of queen b1. And this has the point that he cannot jump to e4 any longer, which he would love to do. And so he needs to find something else like d5 or something in the center. And the key justification is that after c5, which he actually played, is a mistake, because I can gain some space in the center, which at first sight might seem like a pawn blunder because he attacks this pawn 3 times while I just guarded twice. So what's actually white's idea? So the idea is that this pawn often can be sacrificed in such structure because on this long diagonal there is a pin, and by using this pin you can win it back. Of course it's concrete, but it's also very nice and a good chance to gain an advantage because it's not that obvious and your opponents might not realize immediately that d5 is an option or that it's possible. So I played knight g5, which is good. Now the point is that h6 does not work because I can take on d5. I could also play h4, I think, but knight d5 is quite simple. He cannot take by knight because he's checkmated, and if he takes my knight on g5, I will regain the piece with a discovered check on f6 or even on e7, and then pick up the bishop here and even win the exchange. So you might wonder what happens if he trades off my knight first. Then I would take with the bishop, and again, if he takes my knight, I take his rook and I win material. And again, he cannot take on d5 with his knight because he will be checkmated on h7. So he decided to play knight to e4, which is a decent try. And here I already spent quite some time because I thought maybe I have something big, but I went for the safest option, which might not have been best. So there are so many interesting options. I will show some of the ideas, but if you want to go deeper into it, you need to discover it on your own. First, there is this move knight h7, which was not even on my radar. The point being that if king h7, which is a big mistake, I just take on e4, and if takes takes, I just win a lot of material, and white is already winning. So after knight h7, he would have to play something like rook to e8, but then things are crazily messy, and in a rapid game, which this was, it's so hard to really go through everything, make sure that the knight is getting out, and all those tactics. So yeah, I did not even consider it, but even if I would have considered it, maybe I would have stopped around here because it looks just very, very messy, and it could even be worse if you don't know the computer evaluation. So what was my other option? My other options were to take on e4 with either knight, and I had this promising line that I could win an exchange. I hit b7 and h7, so he needs to take, and then he needs to take my knight because otherwise I get his rook on a8 for free. But after this I win in exchange. However, this position seemed, of course, better to me for white, a lot better even, but not quite clear, so I did not go for it. For example, queen g4, you need to watch out for some pawns hanging, also maybe interested in trapping my queen, also interested maybe in jumping, hitting the pawn and getting some attack. So I was not eager to give so much counterplay, even though this would be a very good option for white. Instead, I went for the calm takes, takes, and takes, where I don't win anything, but I have some good control of the center. I might jump knight d5, and he has this eternal problem of the d7 pawn. It cannot really go to d5, so it will be a weakness. And my plan is pretty simple. I will just castle, put my rooks to the d file, jump the knight to d5, and put some pressure there. And it worked out actually quite well in the game. Knight c6 castles, rook e8. Now it was a tough question for me where to put my queen. There are many options, but I actually like this e3 with the intention of hiding my queen away on g2. Computer doesn't like this best, but I think it's very harmonious because the queen is covering all those holes which I created, but at the same time it's not so easy for this knight to jump anywhere. For example, if my queen was there, I was always feeling uncomfortable about any knight jumps hitting my queen, but here my queen is pretty safe, and my further plan is go rook d1, play b3 and then jump with the knight to the center. And if he wants to destroy my plan by trading, then I say, okay, I have a good bishop on c3, and I will also put my rooks to the d file. So I was quite happy there. And from here, it went quite smooth. He attacked my pawn. I really don't like this knight on the rim here, as it's just not doing anything great, and it will end up very passively. However, at this point, I already thought he needs to do something concrete. Otherwise, I will just bring my rooks to the center and control everything. So I was spending some time while he was thinking on this move d5. It's a sacrifice, but in bad positions, you sometimes need to find some counterplay. And here, at least, I thought this is counterplay because I cannot jump knight d5 any longer. I don't have this easy advantage, but I need to make a decision. Do I play b4 or do I protect the pawn? I cannot really take because his knight will be excellent on c4. And actually playing b4, knight b7, knight to d6, it's not so easy because I have a hard time pushing my center. He has this passer, and he might also attack my queenside later with maybe a5 or so. So I was not yet sure if I played this or rook to b1, but rook b1 would be the better choice. White is a bit better here, but still I feel this position is quite more dynamic than what happened in the game, and black would have had better counter chances here. What happened in the game? He played queen to c8, but after queen to c8 I played rook to d1. Now this d5 move is no longer possible because if there is no pin, I can take by knight, and then I have the stable knight and would be a pawn up, which would be a disaster. So he tried to defend passively, but I just kept improving my position. This is not the move which I would play in a normal game of chess because it looks a bit slow, but I didn't see what he will do, and I was just thinking, okay, I will double on the d file, and I was not aiming to exchange bishops, so I waited there a bit. So maybe I want to go there, but yeah, who knows. I first wanted to let him make a move, and he actually brought his bishop to d8, so now I could go to c3, and after knight e7, white is already winning. I had two promising options. I went for the worst of the two, but yeah, let me show you why. So the best is knight f4. I was thinking, okay, I'm keeping things complicated, of course, I'm much better, but I was not sure how to break through. So I tried to simplify things and just was counting on the fact that I will win the d7, and I thought this is completely over. I had one tactical oversight. I thought it's impossible for him to take with the bishop, and this actually, in fact, loses a pawn, but it's his best chance because I thought this is excellent for me because I won a pawn already, but actually there is some nasty queen d3, and this is maybe some counterplay and more than he could hope for in any other line. So he should have given me this pawn on d7, but luckily for me, he was also thinking he should hold on to the pawn for as long as possible and played rook e7, which keeps the pawn, but the piece harmony is way worse. This bishop is, in very bad shape. He's not going anywhere with this pawn because I cover the d6 square. He does not cover it with the bishop, and this rook is also passive. And from now, I just stacked up my rooks, put pressure on d7, tried to create another weakness against his king. He played g6. Now I could expel the queen. He cannot go forward any longer because d7 would drop in a much worse version than before. So after rook d6, he went to b7 with the queen. Went queen f4, again setting up threats against his king. Queen f6, queen h6 incoming. He played rook to e8, preventing queen to f6. And here I could just have won by playing h4, weakening the king first and only then go queen h6. Instead, I went for queen h6, which is a bit inaccurate, but still winning the game. After f6, I win a pawn, but if my pawn was already on h4, I could just play h5, crushing through, winning with mate on the spot, but here I couldn't. So I just took the pawn after some thought. I cannot play and shouldn't play too fancy, try to keep my bishop and play for mate. This would even backfire as rook f6. It's very bad because there is no mate. d6 covers the g7 square, and I would even beat down the material, and I need to be careful. Position is equal, but there's absolutely no need to do something like this. I just took the pawn with the bishop, which might not be the prettiest, but still I'm pawn up. Still this pawn is weak, so I was winning here. d5, he tried trying to get his pieces out, but it's 2 pawns up, and I converted after trading a lot of pieces in his time trouble. So this went also quite well. This opening was also very interesting for me because I never had this queen b1 move on the board, and those complications, they are just very fascinating after c5, d5. There's a lot of stuff to analyze, and yeah, sometimes your rapid games make you aware of that. So hope you enjoyed it. If you could get something out of it or just enjoyed it, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.